Hello, everyone, and welcome, Niranjan.
Hello.
This is going to be a very interesting video. The title of it is How to Beat a Grandmaster.
Yes.
Wow. And you are a very strong player, an FM, with a career high elo of roughly 2300.
2375.
Wow, 2375. And so you've made a course called How to Beat a GM for Chessable.
Yes.
And I'm actually curious what this course is about. So in this video, what we are going to make, you're going to share some of the tips that you
Yes.
used to beat a grandmaster. Is that the correct understanding?
That's right. In addition to that, the framework also will help you to navigate your own challenges when you experience your game versus a grandmaster. So that is how I have structured this course as well as today's session.
Wow. So we're going to see things, and guys, there's also one giveaway. So you can go through this entire video, and at the end of it, you can write in the comments that what is it that you learned the most from this video, and the best comment will be chosen by Niranjan and will get one course of how to
How
beat a
to be.
grandmaster. And
Yes.
this is a very nice poster, by the way, that is made.
Yes. This is all credit to the Chessable's design team. And when I was shown this, I was amazed. And for a moment, I felt how did this player, the designer, understand the theme as well as the personality? It's theme of the course suiting with my personality, and I felt it was very appropriate. And it is also good to say that one of the reasons why many people got attracted to the course is because the design of the cover.
Poster. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
the poster. So I
Wow.
felt really happy when I saw this design.
Amazing. How big is the course? Like how many hours?
I think it's around 9.5 hours.
Wow.
Initially, I had planned for a 4.5 to 5 margin, but then I added some things later, felt that it will look more complete then. And also, I got a lot of good feedback from Marco as well as Alina, as Erwin's wife.
Yes, I
And
know.
she was the one who helped me. They both helped me to structure the course. Even the project manager, Christoph, throughout the journey, the Chessable team really helped me in shaping this because I started the process way back in February 2025, and
Mm.
I pitched them many projects. Out of that, they picked this one, and I felt okay, let's go ahead with this. And there were a lot of revisions, and then I had to play some tournaments in between, but eventually it got made. Thanks to some push by the Chessable team, they said yes, you should go for it, keep doing it. There were some revisions, and then in March we finished the draft. I finished the recording, and in the month of April it got released.
Wow. Okay. So let's look at your first example that you have.
Yes.
And this one is a game between two very famous players, that
Yes.
is Zuckertort and Blackburn.
Yes.
And why did you
So,
choose this game?
so I chose this game in order to show you a particular technique that I have shared with many of my students. It's also a part of the course. So before we begin with this example, I'll just give you a structure. Um, when I when I say that this course is about beating Grandmaster and I'm telling you the how of it, I'm not claiming that I know all the answers, but I think it's more like a manual. This course is more like a manual for somebody who wants some practical training before they play an event. So I know I am a huge fan of movies. So I designed it as if it looks like a cinematic journey, like a hero's journey, wherein there is a want. You want to beat a grandmaster, but then you have to know their strengths. And once you know their strengths, you cannot just go to the battle because you are also supposed to know their weaknesses. But just knowing the strengths and weaknesses is not going to be enough because there will be the mistakes that you yourselves are likely to make. So then you come to the stage where you are looking at the type of mistakes that you're supposed to avoid, and now you are getting somewhere. And that is where I say now you're probably ready to understand the theme. And now I talk about the pre-game routine, during game, post-game routine, and then come full circle and then show my first game against a grandmaster, like how I defeated Grandmaster for the first time. So the player who is watching this also feels like, he's watching some kind of a story developing. And at the end also there is a post credit scene. Like we have post credit in movies, I have a post credit moment in the course about Lord Krishna. So I think I was able to execute all that I wanted to do in cinema, but in a chessable course. So the structure is as follows. First, you know the strengths, then you understand the weakness, then you understand the type of mistakes you are supposed to avoid. Then we come to the tools, and then you get my journey as to how I was able to defeat. There is also a section called simulation, wherein Gukesh was very kind enough to tell me how he defeated or who he defeated, like his first grandmaster in his life, and I have got that game as simulation.
Oh, who was
So
his
so
first GM?
he defeated Mr. Venkatesh.
Okay, and yours? Who was your first?
I defeated Yakubo.
You mean
Igor Yagupo.
Yagupo? Okay.
Igor Yagupo, yes.
And
So
Niranjan, in your chess journey, how many GMs would you have beaten? Have you counted, or that's not
I have
easy?
not counted, but I when I had filtered out, I had at least 20 games to
Wow,
choose from.
nice.
But I have not like really counted. But this is only classical games.
Hmm.
I am talking only about classical. Even the course is entirely about me playing classical games. Okay, so now in this example, I am going to pick a page from the methods, tools and methods. That is a segment. In that, I talk about IDCC. So we'll go to the position after knight bd7 eighth move.
What is IDCC, by the way?
So I'm going to reveal that now.
Okay.
So when I was teaching chess, what I realized is that it becomes easy if the methods are easy to understand for the student rather than just showing chess moves. Even in, I mean, the inspiration is of course coming from my academic teachers. When I was in school, my maths teacher and science teacher, he taught me while walking. He taught me physics and chemistry, maths while on a walk, and that kind of made an impression on me that we can actually teach in this way without having book and pen and diagrams,
Nice.
without making it seem very complicated. So I thought, let me also simplify certain things for chess players, especially beginners. So I came up with this concept called IDCC.
So
So black
whenever,
has,
by the way, Niranjan, you have a question for our viewers, we can ask them to pause and they can
yes.
think. So if you can tell that, that would be great.
Yes, so this is a good moment to tell what IDCC is. So after knight bd7, white plays bishop b2,
Okay.
and
Logical.
and here I think you can take a moment to pause and see what you would do as black.
Can
It's
I
a very
flip the
normal.
board?
Yeah, you can flip the board.
Okay. So think
So
as black, what to do.
think as black. It's a simple position, not much is happening.
Hmm.
And here, if you have already made a decision, then proceed further because I'm going to tell you what IDCC is. So this is your first chance to spot moves on your own
Can
without
I
knowing.
suggest what I thought? And maybe
Yes,
you can also guide me.
yes,
I
yes,
mean, just the moves. Mm, one move that comes to my mind is a6 because I want to
yes,
stop knight d5. Then there is queen e7, just looking in this direction. I also want to think about c5, pushing the
yes.
pawn in the center. So I think, yeah, these are the moves that came to my mind.
Yes, these are the moves that even I was considering when I saw this game for the first time. Like in beginners, when we're talking about players who are acquainted with the rules but are looking to improve, some may consider move like h6, some may consider d takes c4, some may even say knight e4 or e5. So now the difference between a title player and then let's say the beginner is that the title player usually knows what to discard. That is, I think, one of the main differences. So here I stands for idea. So when your opponent has made a move, you ask yourself what is the idea. And then D stands for drawback, where you look at what is the drawback behind the move that your opponent has played. Here I also add another angle because many people talk about drawback principle these days. What I also suggest to my students is to flip and look at your own position and see, is there any drawback with the existing position and your potential move. Like let's say you have decided on playing queen e7. Is there any drawback with that? So I would
Mm.
suggest to not only look at drawback of the opponent, but also see drawback for your own self in the current as well as in the future. Then the C stands for candidate moves. After having some information with idea and drawback, you have to make a list of candidate moves. And once the list is there, you make a choice. So that is the simple framework. See, the last C stands for choice. And I have seen that just by implementing this, many of my students, if they take any top player games and if they play around, let's say 30 to 40 games with this method, especially with the games of players like Karpov, Rubinstein, Capablanca, even Magnus Carlsen, the earlier Magnus Carlsen before 2010, let's say, or 2015. Most of them are also able to come very close to the right move, or they sometimes understand why a move is wrong instantly. So that is a framework. Now we can flip back the board and make the move Queen e7, which is what Black played in the game.
Oh. Mm.
But your move is right. A6 is correct.
Mm.
So for those who have still not paid attention as to why a6 is important and why queen e7 is not the number one choice, I think this is a good moment again to
Mm.
think.
White to play now. What do you
Yes,
do? So you maybe already have to think, just to understand your concept, what is the idea behind this move first? So maybe
yes.
I think like, oh, this bishop a3 could be an idea. Then I look at the drawback of this move. And then, like, let's say, for example, queen e7 maybe blocks the bishop from going back and so on. And so that's the drawback. But also, I have to think of uh, candidate moves that I would have. So let's say I look at candidate moves like a3, knight b5, maybe queen c2,
Queen c2, h3.
h3, and then I also should I look at the drawback of those candidate moves or not necessary?
Yes, I think it is necessary. When I'm saying ID, when you're making a choice, it's a good idea to do a blunder check. That
Mm.
is where drawback helps. So I usually suggest that they look at the drawbacks, and sometimes it's about priority. Like for example, in the opening, they say don't make the same move twice, like don't move your same piece twice, right? But then sometimes you have to violate that principle because something else takes priority, and that is why chess is interesting. Otherwise I can just say do this and you will do it and succeed. But so, like like Mark Twain's quote, do you know this quote? And all generalizations are false, including this one. So it's like that.
Nice.
So I usually refrain from generalizing, but even throughout the course I have told the students that when you are learning something, especially from what I have suggested, treat these as two extra wheels for the bicycle. Once you learn how to balance, discard these because there should be no method.
Mm.
So this is what I suggest. But
Very
this is
nice.
for those who are
So to
initially.
reach the stage of no method, you need a method, and
Yes,
then you slowly discard it. Very
yes,
nice. Very nice. So this position is the move knight b5,
yes. Knight b5 is correct. To all those who found it very good, you are up on a great start.
because now
So
you win the bishop. If the bishop
yes,
moves away, the c7 pawn is falling.
correct.
Mhm.
This is true. And now why is knight b5 important? To understand this, I think it's a good idea for those who have not studied to study the Steinitz list of advantages. There is a table of Steinitz list of advantages where he talks about temporary advantages and permanent advantages. So in his opinion, getting double bishop is a major advantage. It's more like a permanent one. So knight b5 is a good move, and white played knight b5. We can go forward. Knight e4, and now you play knight takes d6 because that is why you went to b5. And here in the modern world, just after playing cd6, I think the obvious move is c takes d5, because then after bishop d5 there is a very nice idea that white has. But to understand this idea, I think we should understand the drawback again. For example, black has a bishop on d5, knight on e4. Now, what is the drawback of this? This is a
There
question
are
to
no
think.
pawns there, right, in the center, so you can actually expand your pawns.
Correct. This is perfect. So you can expand the pawns, but to expand the pawn, we need to push the knight on e4.
Mm.
So to push the knight on e4, what do you need? You need the pawn on f2. But to get the pawn on f2 to f3, we need the knight somewhere else. And that is why knight e1 is a good move.
And not knight d2 because they can trade it here.
They can trade it, yes.
But knight e1 means now f3 and e4 will come very strong in a strong way.
Yes,
Nice.
yes. So this is one of the ideas of the, let's say, after the engines have come, we are probably able to understand this better. But those days, I'm not sure how they thought. He played knight d2,
Mm.
and after knight d2, knight d f6, there is a very nice moment. This is a position with white to move, and I think you are equipped to find the best move here. Black's idea is that he has supported the e4 knight with knight d f6, and there is a drawback with this. And Sagarba, you have had the great fortune of interacting with Doretsky,
Mm.
and he made this concept of superfluous
Two
piece
knights.
very popular. Like in here, this is a great example.
Mm.
White to move. What is the best move for white?
Okay, very nice. By the way, I have your PGN, but I'm not looking at it. So I don't know the next move. So I'm also trying
Okay.
to think on my own what to
Okay.
do here. The move that, by the way, guys, if you haven't thought, pause it because I'm going to share my thoughts. Move that comes to my mind is I want to get out, I want to remove this knight from d2 because it's going to
Yes.
take and come here. And
Yes.
there's not too many, I don't want to go back again. So actually, knight b1 is what I'm thinking. To go back
Yes.
here, kick it away, and then come to c3.
Correct. Yes, that is actually correct. Knight
Oh,
b1 is right. So you are a very fast learner. You can easily see. So when I saw this position, I was also amazed. So knight b1, and now f3, ng5, h4 is a idea.
yeah, traps the knight.
So just another question here. Now you know what is white's idea, right? f3. Now how do you deal with it?
Oh, nice.
This is again a good moment to pause. Just obviously white is better here,
Hmm.
but you can maybe flip the board now and see from black's point of view. How does black continue?
Okay. Because I was thinking I have to make space for my knight on here. So
Yes.
I can actually go back knight d7 and come back. But that's like wasting a lot of time in the position.
Yes, knight
Um,
d7 already means cd5 will come, then f3 will come.
yeah, that looks terrible. Um, Maybe I should think about doing something active.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm wondering if I can do e5. It looks really risky, especially with f3 and the knight can get trapped.
Yeah,
Oh,
f3. This is a nice tip. What happens is if you compare this with a war situation, the black's position is not good enough to open
mm,
because it's not ready. Plus, it's a double bishop versus knight bishop kind of a situation. So, opening will only benefit white. So, just to make space for the knight on e4, I think
h6, yeah?
h6 is the only move. Yes.
Mm,
If you want to make space for the knight, h6 is the move. But I agree that this position is already in white's favor.
right.
So that was one interesting moment. The next interesting moment comes after 16th move, bishop d3. Yes. And here black plays rook fc8. Generally, it is said that if you are able to finish your castling before 8 or between 8 to 10 moves and connect your rooks between, let's say, 12 to 14 moves, you can say that you have parried the opening stage well. And here black has connected rooks. The only thing he's missing is the double bishop. Now you can flip the board from white's point of view. And this is also a nice tip. I mean, I have found it useful and students have found it useful is that when you do not know what to do, ask the pawns.
Oh, ask the pawns.
Yes. So the pawns usually know what is the direction that the player should take, the
Hmm.
side should take. So here, consult the pawns from white's point of view, and then come up with white's best move.
So yeah, pause the video, ask the pawns. Sometimes the pawns, based on your understanding, will speak more or less, but you have to make them talk. My thought here, Niranjan, is I can't get e4 easily.
Mm-hmm.
I want to maybe think of doing that. I'm not sure. A4, bishop A3, but I don't see much value of putting the bishop here.
Mm-hmm.
So the move that I find very attractive is actually G4.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
it looks a little bit weird because I'm kind of opening up the king, but it can be nice to gain space.
No, this is in style of Adiban. Adiban would probably play G4.
Hmm.
Um, and usually this is also a question. It's a joke also about placing your rooks. Have you heard this Pano rook joke?
No, I don't know the joke. What is the joke?
So there's a player called he was a player called Pano, and he said about the placement of rooks. First, you decide which rook you will place where, and just when you're about to make the move, change the rook.
So instead of rook c1 or rook here, think which rook c1 looks natural, but move this one.
So that's a joke,
I know.
but many players also play rook a7 here. But rook a7 doesn't give much. White will be able to exchange rooks, but that's not what white should be playing for. Now, when I say ask your pawns, it means also that you must consider pawn breaks.
Mm.
I think in Excel Smith's Pump Up Your Chess Rating, he calls this as pawn levers, where he says make use of the pawn breaks in the position. And here the pawn break is clear. It is e3 to e4.
Mhm.
And to initiate that, as you said, you need e4. So rook a e1 is correct.
Very nice.
So rook a1 was played, and again, this can be done through IDCC method also. You have seen black is playing rook f8. The idea is that he wants to be there on the open line. Maybe he may double it, but that is not going to be of use to him because we
Mhm.
have a bishop on d3. Then the drawback of this move, there's another point I want to mention about drawback is that you must infer this information. You must gather this information. It is not necessary that this information would be useful instantly, but it would be useful maybe after 3 or 4 moves.
Got it.
So if you use that framework and see one rook from f8 has come to c8, which means now the king side has one piece less.
Mm.
So maybe you can do some action on the king side. So out of that, if you have a choice between rook f1 and rook a1, since you are anyway going towards king side, it makes sense to bring the a rook to e1.
Nice.
So the next few moves were easy for white because he knows the plan. He has to push the pawn. So e4, rook c8, e5, knight e8, and then f4. G6, rook e3, and f5. Here, this is a good moment to pause because this is a moment where you have a special rule that is en passant if you want to do it or not.
Mm. By
So,
the way,
what do you think?
one question here was the knight coup. There's no way. Okay, got it. Sorry. It was
Knight
well,
h5, g4.
it was very well timed. Somehow I was thinking, why didn't he jump with knight e4? But there's a pawn here, so
Yes,
it was timed in a way where now, yeah, okay. Should we take
so
opus or not? Is the question.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Well, if I mean, guys, pause the video and think carefully. Um, for me, it seems like ef6 is giving knight f6, knight e4, right? The
mm-hmm.
square, because the bishop
Yes,
controls. But if you are able to open up things quickly, then maybe it's good. So it's a very concrete decision if I want to take
yes,
or not.
yes, yes, correct. Like
Eh,
there is at least 0.50 difference between the best move and the second best move.
Okay. So one idea is to keep it closed and then try for this break and open it. The other idea that I got is ef6, knight f6, and can we push f5 there?
Yes,
It works?
correct. Yeah, so the correct move here in this position is ef6.
Okay.
So the main premise for playing ef6 is that there is a visible target, which is e6 pawn. And Also, the king side also looks a little weak.
Mm.
There's no dark squared bishop. E6 is a visible target. And this is also something that I mentioned throughout the course, that when you are playing, please keep an eye on symptoms in the position. So symptoms in this case, E6 is a weakness, then the dark squares are weak. I would also consider hanging pieces as weakness. I would also consider a position in which the king has no pieces in front of the king side pawns as a weakness. So these are all like ways to spot your chances.
Mm.
So ef6, if you don't play f6, the white has advantage, but it will be slow. But after ef6, knight f6, you immediately have a follow up with f5, which is what makes this interesting.
That's
So here, black suddenly fell, like the position just collapsed. But there is a moment where you are supposed to be precise, which is where I talk about the second acronym. So f5, knight e4, bishop takes e4, d takes e4, and now after fg6, you have to pause and tell me what happens after rook c2.
Should I make
So
the move rook c2?
yes, yes. Actually, it's a good idea to consider this before, but
Mm.
I think it is easier for you to start thinking from here. And this is where I mentioned CCTP. I think you know what is CCTP, right?
Checks, captures, threats, and pawn breaks, right?
Correct, correct. So CCTP is something that you should always do when your position is like your pieces are in contact with your opponent's pieces.
Mm.
I think this is something that you can practice doing with simple tactical puzzles. So when I talk about the strengths of a grandmaster, I do mention this, that they are good with tactics, and they are good with drawback principle. They're very good with evaluation. They're good with attack as well as end games. So this is how I have framed the strengths. After rook c2, I think it's a good time. Maybe you can also think white to
Yeah.
play.
So my first thought here was to take the pawn on h7 because
Okay,
that really opens up the king completely. And
correct.
I want to next move my rook with a check either on g3 or h3 wherever the king goes, and
Mm-hmm.
then get my queen in. So I was thinking like g takes h7, king h8 to
Yes.
keep the king, then d5 check, opening up the bishop, e5 makes sense
Mm-hmm.
to keep it closed.
Yes.
And then I was having this intermezzo d6,
Mm-hmm.
rook takes d2. If I mean queen can also move, but d takes e2, d takes e7, rook
Yes.
takes b2, and
Yes.
then rook f8 check, king h7, rook c8, and I make a
That's
queen.
winning. Very good. I think the way you calculate it is also a very good method in itself. To calculate without moving pieces, also
Mm.
suggested by many coaches. D6 is actually a good move, and there is even a flashy move there, but D6 is good enough to get an winning advantage. So that is correct.
I'm
After
wondering what's
D5,
the flashy move.
yes, it's. I think this game is based on this one move. Like if I tell this to any grandmaster and mention this, they will know this game.
Oh, oh, is it like you give up your queen and then that bishop opens up?
Yes, yes, it's
Ah,
deflecting the
okay, okay,
queen.
got it.
Also, when you said GH7, I suddenly remembered your poem. If the chat or the audience is not aware, I think you wrote a very nice poem many years ago about a pawn which goes into opponent's army and then acts like a spy which has turned sides.
Yes,
I think it was
Sicilian.
on similar line. Yes, I think it's a
Yeah,
nice poem.
yeah, it's been very long. Thanks for reminding.
Yeah. Actually, when I play, I'm reminded of this poem. It's such a strong impression, like anchor to a theme.
Mm.
Sometimes you remember a song, it takes you to the moment where you are listening to that song, right? It's like that.
Mm. So,
So
so
coming
what you
back,
are saying is that this GH7 King H8, this pawn is like that, kind of
the pawn.
shielding the king.
Shielding the king, yes.
Hmm.
But that is not enough, unfortunately, for black here. It's not enough. So g8-7, king h8, and the best move here is d5, check, e5. And here we see the magic of the rook on e3, the bishop on b2. So here comes, if you have not found the move, please pause. But I'm going to reveal now in 3, 2, 1. The move is queen b4.
Oh, wow. It's so beautiful. I was trying to make it work, but I didn't see how to. Oh,
So if queen takes b4, maybe you can show the line.
yeah. Queen takes b4, bishop
Bishop e5
e5.
check, king h7,
Yes.
rook h3, king g6,
So
rook
if king
g3,
here, there is a mate.
mate. Yeah.
Yes. So king g6.
Then rook g3, king h6, rook f6, king h5, then rook f5, king h6, bishop f4, and then mate.
Nice. Wow, this is such
So
a. So there were some options. Like for example, when I gave a check, you could go back here. Then I gave
yes,
this check. Then you
yes,
come here and again this
bishop
check,
f4,
and then eventually
mate.
from this
It will
side.
be a mate.
Wow, what a nice one.
So this game was also covered in an amazing book called Modern, one of the most amazing chess games, I think. It was also John Nunn was also the co-author of this book. It's a very
Nice.
nice book. So this I saw this game for the first time in that book.
Oh, I think I saw this game because I remember now in 1001 Chess Sacrifices by Fred Renfield. I think they had this
Ah.
position, perhaps.
Okay. That's also a very nice book. I have studied that book thanks to my first coach, then PK sir, Prakash Kulkarni. He had given me that book.
Wow.
Very nice. So that was the main highlight of this game. We can now go to the second game, but maybe do a conclusion.
This was how the game ended, by the way. Just
Yes.
nice.
So this was the end. I felt that knight b5 was an instructive moment because black played queen e7, and in the subject of don't in the subject of mistakes to avoid in Chessable course, I have mentioned that you must refrain from playing autopilot moves.
Mm,
Because sometimes the grandmasters, they are very well aware with exceptions, and sometimes you play a move which looks very normal without thinking, and that may turn out to be a mistake.
mm.
So I'm not saying queen e7 is a mistake, but it's not the best. You could have played a6 and then played queen e7. Okay, so that was the summary. We can go to the next one. In the next example, let me tell you the main point.
So you made all these acronyms, yeah, which is IDCC, then
Yes, I
CCTP.
CCTP, and then I also do SOYH, which is based on Lasker's advice. This is especially useful when you are winning, and I have done this myself. If you are in a winning position, the immediate temptation is to make the move. But Lasker says, sit on your hands.
Mm,
So I literally sit on my hands, do not tempt myself to make the move, especially when opponent is in time trouble. There is this temptation that comes. Let us win quickly, especially when you're winning.
like how Nepo did a day before yesterday with Vidit. He was having +5 position and 1 hour time lead, and he made
Okay.
a bad move, and then the game became equal. Maybe he had to sit on his hands there.
Yeah, maybe. Yes. So sit on your hands is it's a golden advice, I would say, especially for kids. It's a nice one to remember. Okay. In the structure of the course, I talk about the strengths. In that, I mentioned that grandmasters are really good with evaluation. And why I'm saying this is that when they look at the position, they already know where to place the pieces. They are able to sense the weather at the position. And for it to be easy, I have coined this one called KAMPWS.
Wow, six
So what
letters.
is, yes, 6 letters. It's easy to remember. KAMP sounds very similar to SCAMP, which is CAMP, but this is KMP, and then I also added WS. My thoughts after making the course was that I should have added another element for it to be more impactful, but I feel it's already good enough. But there was this thought I had, like how directors, when they make a movie, they feel, okay, this should have been changed. I felt that there was another component I should have added. But This in itself is good enough. I will now, when I am teaching this to a student, I actually draw a table where I ask them to write the numbers 1 to 5 on the left, and then two columns, number white and black. And then the first one, K, stands for king's position. So for it to be relevant, let us go to the position after ed4, rook into c1, rook into c1, and then queen f4. This is a
Ooh.
famous game between Petrosian and Portish from their candidates match. And this is, I think, where it becomes relevant. K stands for king's position. So we compare the king and see whose king is better. In this position, we can say it's not so clear. Maybe it's just 0-0. I will not give score to any side. So the king score is 0-0. Then we move forward and look at activity. A stands for activity. So here you compare whose pieces are better, which pieces are better. So in this position, you can see that white's rook is on an open file, whereas the black's rook is on d8 defending d5 pawn. So I will probably give more points to the white rook than black rook. So I will say maybe half a point more for white. Then we go to M. M stands for material. We look at the material whether white is better in some way, like material is he a pawn up or is he a piece up, or sometimes the material can also be the configuration, like if a particular side has two pieces and the other side has a rook, so that has to be considered. Now in this case, material at the moment is equal. Then we go to pawn structure, and here we know that some pawns can be weak, some can be really strong, some can be neutral. So we see whether there are any weaknesses in the position connected with pawns and then compare. In this position, both sides have isolated pawns, so not much is happening. Then we go to the weaknesses side. And when I talk about weakness, as I mentioned earlier, we look at the king's position, we look at a bad piece if there is any, we look at hanging pieces, we look at lightly protected pieces. By lightly protected pieces, I mean a piece that is attacked once and defended once. And also there can be some kind of weakness that can be provoked on the very next move, some kind of potential weakness. And then we come to S. S stands for space. So now when I teach the beginners, I usually divide this into two parts. First, I teach them KAMP because this part is easy. But W and S, weakness and space, they cannot be taken literally, because sometimes if you have more space, it's a problem. And sometimes if you have less space, it's actually good. Sometimes just having good amount of space, coordination is good enough, because your opponent has a lot of space, he has a lot of weaknesses. Imagine like you have a big house, but you have to maintain it, so then you need many people to maintain it, that kind. So I don't teach WS immediately. I add some gap, give them many positions, then come to weakness and space. But you can use that to evaluate. And then the table total comes, whose side is better. And here it's very clear that I would prefer white because of that rook on the open
C
line.
file.
So based on that, I could say that I have a good position. In this can be used in many positions to evaluate. Of course, there will be some exceptions, but I think this can be a good method to use to evaluate a position. And the other component which I wanted to add was timing. So sometimes if there is an attack happening on the queen side, the opposing side is attacking on the king side, then you need to take timing into account more than anything else. There even activity will not matter. Timing is more important, like
Initiative, right? Who has the
initiative.
initiative?
Yes. So also this order is basis priority. You should give more importance to the king's position and then activity of pieces, and activity more than material more than pawn structure, and so on.
Mhm.
So I have put it in this order. Now the big question is queen f4 like a trap, or you just take gf4?
Oh, it's very
So
interesting because my first instinct is not to take it
yes,
because the knight comes here and then wins back the queen. But now that you are
correct.
asking, I'm thinking about it. Guys, would you take it or not? Pause the video and think. Because my first instinct was rook c6. Then I kind of threatened to take the knight and then the queen. So
Yes.
that's the move that came to my mind. But now I think of it, let's say I
Mm-hmm.
take king g3, knight d3, and I go rook c7. And
Yes.
maybe I'm getting this a pawn, knight e5 could come at some point. I don't know. I mean, knight is on d3, but not
Yes,
sure.
that's a good point. I think the learning for from this example, mainly the reason I'm showing this is that you must recognize that you have a choice.
Hmm.
Like you can take if you want to, and it's important to consider. This is what grandmasters do.
Hmm.
Many occasions they start their calculation where many players stop.
Hmm.
So for this, actually, I have mentioned a line that if you want to improve your calculation and the depth of the calculation, then start by making this simple habit that wherever you would previously stop, see one more move more than that.
Nice.
Small habit, but it has good impact.
Yeah. Also, I've heard Vidit saying this, that always end the calculation with opponent's move.
Oh,
And that
okay.
actually is very helpful. Like if you think gf4, then look at your opponent, knight f4. If you king g3, then look at what they'll do. Rook c7, then now end not with rook c7, but what will black do? So perhaps
Oh,
that
nice.
is a helpful thing.
Yes, yes. Now that you are mentioning with it, one of the things that I have learned from him is that he had mentioned this to calculate as if you have got only one chance.
Mm.
But he said this many years ago. I don't know what his take is right now, but he said that don't play trial and error with puzzles. It's as if you have got one chance and you will
Like a
calculate
game.
like a game. Yes.
Nice. Okay, so did white take the queen?
Yes, Petrosian took the queen,
Wow.
and he was correct. There were no engines at that time, but he still, was working, operating at that level. So gf4, knight f4, king g3, knight takes d3. And here, if you play rook c7 directly, then black
a5.
has rook d6. And, your king is still not so safe.
Mm.
You will have to play knight e5. But here, after knight d3, the idea which Petrosian had seen was to play rook c3.
Knight b4, only move.
So here again, we have to recognize that we have a choice.
Oh,
So in this position, it
you
seems okay.
realize why I didn't become a GM, yeah?
No,
This
but
is
there is always hope.
there's hope, yes. No, but you are showing me what is happening. Okay, so the choice, do you think, is knight b2 and b4?
Yes, knight b2
Uh-huh.
and knight b4. Many books also don't cover this. In this book has appeared in many. This game has appeared in many magazines and books, but they go without comment. Sometimes they mention that the knight has to move,
Hmm.
but the resource here is not just about seeing one move though. So night before you understand the idea as to what happens on night before you will see in the game. But yes, knight b2 was correct. But why knight b2 was correct? Like in this position, I'm not saying that knight b2 is the best move. Like if you put the engine, it becomes easy for white to play afterwards. So I felt that maybe if he had played maybe knight b2, there is some chance to take, like to give you an example. Let's say if knight b2, and then let's say he goes
Rook
rook
c7.
d6,
Rook c7 or
rook c6. I mean rook c7.
rook d6?
Then no, now once he plays rook c7, you have to go knight d3 again.
Hmm.
Let's say rook into a7, and now rook d6. Something like this can be done. I mean, this is a sample line. Both sides did not play the best moves in this variation, but this is a sample line. But here, after knight before, I felt that white's play was easier compared to black's play. So after knight before a3, knight a6, b4, and here it doesn't, the position doesn't look bad, but it's not as bad as it seems. If you check this with an engine, it will still say this position is equal.
Oh.
And here I mentioned, like when there is a situation like this, I have mentioned in the course that it's a good idea to take this position and play a practice game with a friend. from both colors.
Mm.
Like you play this from white as well as from black and see whether you're able to defend this as black and whether you're able to convert this as white if your opponent goes wrong. So king h7, black is still very much in the game, but he played knight b8, voluntarily allowing rook c7.
By the way, I was wondering of this move, rook d7, because I wanted to play b5, rook c7. But
Okay.
it seems like after something like rook e3, maybe the knight is trapped. It has to go back and check, and you lose it.
Yeah, after rook d7, rook c8 check is directly
Also,
better.
we also winning. Yeah, rook
Yeah.
d7, rook c8, king h7, and b5,
b5.
and rook
I would not
c7,
say
just rook
winning.
e8 or something. Knight is trapped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
knight is trapped. But it's not winning though. White is only slightly better here also.
Oh, really?
So rook d7, rook c8 check, king h7, b5, knight c7,
Ah, knight c7.
knight e5, rook e7. You will win that a7 pawn. Like you'll go knight c6, you will take the pawn. But okay, still it's not lost.
True.
So the final moment in this game that I want to show is one moment. It's I think after rook b7, 31st move. Yes. Yes. In this position also, b6 pawn is hanging, that is clear. But when you're playing against a stronger player, like a grandmaster, the initial thought is, oh, my opponent is going to win. But what I am suggesting in the course is to look for your chances throughout, not be bowed down by what your mind is telling you or with the position, because this mental resilience is important if you want to beat a grandmaster. And here is a good example for this. The pawn on b6 is attacked, but black can get his own counterplay. So the question for all the viewers here is to see how you get the play. Where is your play as black?
Because if I naturally think of a check after king e3, I don't know what I'm doing at this point. So,
Yes, f7 is hanging, b6 is hanging, but then there is a ray of hope,
mm.
and that comes in the form of activity.
So should I start with f6 first? Should I start with check first?
Yeah, f6 there is a visible drawback. The knight is coming to c6, and yeah, the d5 is also
Right. So then
once
knight
the knight.
e6, yeah?
Yes, 96 is correct. King e3 and then rook
c8.
c6, rook c8.
Wow. Wow.
The point is now rook c3 is coming.
Yes.
d4 is not so strong now because it needs constant support.
And
So
king
now
d3, maybe there's check. So
check,
it's a
yes.
little harassment there. So maybe knight c6. Block
So
the.
now if you go knight c6, then you go rook e8.
Ah,
Now with the check, you have brought the king to e3, which is what makes this difference.
right.
So there is some play here, but what I have observed is that when you have resources on the board, your mind should be in that mode to find it.
Mm.
If you are down with the position, maybe you have made a mistake on the previous turn and you are upset about it, this will only go down further. Instead,
Mm.
if you see that maybe there is a chance and look for your chances, it's a good practical reminder. Even in worse position, if you're playing against the GM, give a tough fight and that way annoy them.
Very nice.
So here, yeah, this was the last resource. In the game, Black did not give a tough fight after this. After f6, he lost in just few moves. So the position collapsed. He got the b6 pawn and then was able to win. So this game, I showed you primarily to showcase KMPWS, which is also one of the things that grandmasters are really good at.
Very nice.
And do we move to the third one?
Yes.
So in the third one, this is a recent game, and you also interviewed Roman on your channel, right?
Yes.
So
He
let
is
us,
the current European individual champion. He's playing with the black pieces here. His
yes.
name is Roman Dhetiarov, and
Ah,
opponent
okay.
is Emre Can.
Yes. For this game, the first critical moment comes after 11th move castles. Yes, and here white plays knight c d5, and from black's point of view, you can already start doing IDCC here. You look at the idea, what is the drawback, and then there's also another detective method that I teach my students, is that when a piece moves from square A to square B, then you do an investigation as if you're a detective, asking the questions. Oh dear knight, where are you coming from? What were you doing there? Why have you come here? What are you going to do here? Simple interrogation kind of a thing can also help you in understanding what is it that your opponent is trying to do. So here, like I said, if you don't know what to play, sometimes you must ask your pawns. So you can combine the information you get from IDCC, like what is the drawback of knight cd5. B2 pawn is now not so well protected because the bishop on g7 is there, and that can be a minor drawback. Then there's also another drawback, Sagar Bhai. Can you spot what is the other drawback of knight cd5?
There is this knights have become superfluous, yeah.
Yes,
So that sometimes can trap the knight.
correct. In addition to this, there is one more,
Uh-huh.
and we have covered this already.
So this piece is a bit loose.
Correct. It is
This
hanging now.
pawn is now undefended. So maybe
Correct.
some tactics can come.
Yes. So these are the things I suggest my students to look at it consistently, especially when it is your opponent's turn.
Mm.
Many players usually don't value the time they get when their opponent is thinking. I mentioned this throughout the course, to use your time judiciously and also make the most of the time you've got, even when it is your opponent's turn, to look at such things, and they may prove useful in the long run.
Nice.
So after knight cd5, the correct move is f5. It's a pawn break. You see IDCC and pawn break comes, and e takes f5, bishop f5, c3, knight e5, knight e3. There's a question posed to black as to where they will move the bishop,
Mm.
and I think some kind of calculation is needed, maybe a basic one, but you can also choose this based on your intuitive feeling as to what you will play. The best move here is bishop e4, and after this comes my question. White played knight fd5, rook c8, and white played queen a4. And here is your question as black. What will you do?
Not easy, but it's already a double attack here with bishop on e4 and the pawn on a7 hanging.
Yes. So you use whatever I have just mentioned. What is the idea of queen a4? You have mentioned that. What is the drawback?
The drawback is the queen has gone further away from these squares here on the
Correct.
king side.
This information is important to gather,
Mm.
which will become like a transition. Like, because you observe this, you will start looking for candidate moves which are pertaining to these
Mm.
information or these details.
Because if you don't see that, then your thing is, oh, let me take the knight and then just play a6 and I don't lose material, but your position deteriorates.
Yes.
But if you see this, then maybe there's a chance you will see this check, yeah?
Yes, this check is dangerous.
Mm.
And if you have spotted this, it's not enough to spot, because you must back it up with calculation. So let's say in one of your in your candidate moves, knight f3 is also part of it. And you will see that after knight f3, initial calculation could be that if g takes f3, then there is queen g5 check. And if knight g2, you will at least have bishop into d5. And so you
And
have
then
managed to
f3 is
double.
hanging.
Yes. And if king h1, obviously it's mate
Bishop takes
with
f3.
bishop takes f3. So this will push you further to the calculation. And the grandmasters, I also observed that they know when to stop calculation. So here, after saying knight f3, they may see this, but they will not stop here. They may also consider what happens if the knight is not taken. So again, king h1, you have to consider what to do. So here, this part is easy. When I gave this to my students, the major challenge I saw that they experienced was that to come with knight f3. So then I had to remind them that you do IDCC, see the drawback, the queen is not there on d1, and then they come to this
Mm.
conclusion. So then after this, it's
Queen
really
h4,
good.
right? Yeah.
Queen h4. Yeah, yeah, we can go forward. Queen h4, h3 was played. And here Indian suggested rook c5 instead of bishop e5 to push these knights away. And for example, if rook c5, bishop e2, knight g5, it's already pretty deadly. Black is winning. So this was the main point of this game that I wanted to show, that queen from d1 has gone to a4,
Mm.
and bishop, when he was asked this question with knight e3, Roman played bishop e4, and he took 6.5 minutes to play bishop e4, and after queen a4, he thought about 12.5 minutes to play knight f3 check. So he wanted to like also ensure that this is correct. He did
Mm.
not like blitz it out. So
Nice.
this time I have taken from the chess.com events. After the game, I was curious as to how he was able to win the event, and I saw that this is one of the good games.
Nice.
Then comes the last example which I have from my own game.
This
And
is you are black against Shriyansh Das.
correct. This was from a tournament I played in France last year.
Mhm.
And though this is not against the Grandmaster, this actually is about the topic that I just mentioned. You can start that white played h4 in this position, and I want you to think about what to do here
Mm.
as black.
I do see very quickly because of your training now the bishop is hanging
Yes, and
and the queen is also unprotected here.
yes,
Um, and there are some targets like check is coming to my mind and but I'm not able to make it work as yet, but let's see.
yes. I've also observed that when you are seeing the features of the position, for it to click, you also need I mean, this is when they're playing in tournaments, I've observed that you see these features, and for it to work you also need to have that belief that you can defeat the opponent.
Hmm.
Then that fear of hanging pieces, oh, my piece is attacked, so I must immediately move, this kind of feeling will diminish, or let's say there will be a pause between what has happened, and before you take any action there will be a pause.
Nice.
The stronger players are really good with this pause.
Hmm.
Even in mindfulness, they say, right, when there is an action, before you react, there comes a pause.
Correct.
So I've seen that grandmasters exercise this consistently.
They respond, not react, right? That
Yes.
way.
And they're not perturbed by a move like h4.
Hmm.
So the funny part about this example is that I went really close to getting it right, but then I fell short of one move.
Okay.
So here the exercise was about spotting hanging pieces, queen d2 and bishop on b5. And
But
mm,
it doesn't help by just spotting, yeah, because I
yes,
have spotted it, but I don't know the move yet.
correct. So here you need to see where that queen on d2 can come in trouble.
Hmm. Of course,
I
there
have
is this idea of check and that, but that square is so well guarded.
correct. That square is guarded. For me, this came through experience. Like I have actually lost a very bad game in like less than 25 moves with this theme.
Oh, I
Uh,
got an idea.
okay,
So if my queen comes here, uh, then I have like I'll attack this and also this way. So if I can start with knight f4,
okay,
then you take, I have queen takes, and then my
okay,
threat is knight h3 check, winning your queen, and I'm threatening here. And somehow your queen cannot move to defend the bishop.
okay. So let us see this as a situation itself. You are seeing knight f4,
Hmm.
hg5, queen g5 without moving the pieces. And what is it that your opponent would do then?
Hmm.
You have got a pawn with knight f4.
Yeah. My opponent, if he moves the king, then I'll just take the bishop. So
Yes.
has to do something more than
So this is a very nice like concluding puzzle to what we have just seen, because it takes into account the drawback of the moves that you are also making on your own.
So queen d4 maybe,
Yes.
and then queen b5, and maybe the position is equalish. I don't know.
Yeah, so this was a tournament where I was putting that effort to
Hmm.
see more. Okay, what is happening? Then as I said, I felt one more shot. So knight f4, hg5, queen g5. You saw queen into d4. I saw queen into b5, but
Oh,
I saw
the
one more move.
instead of queen b5 something else here, or
No, I
ah,
saw queen b5.
and then there is some move for oh
White.
rook e7 maybe,
Yes.
and
So
then okay, there is a mate kind of and if you have to go rook g8 you lose the piece,
nice. Yes, correct.
and if rook f7 then take and you lose. Oh my god, so it's losing, yeah?
No, it's not.
It's not, I
So,
have to think more
so
here.
this was exactly my thought. Just whatever you mentioned, this is what I thought, and I
Hmm.
discarded knight f4.
Ah, but you
But
had
there
to
is,
make it work.
yes, it's worked. It was working to me until a certain point, but I saw rook e7 and I stopped.
Hmm.
But had I continued, I think this would have been a really good game. The game ended in a draw, but this was a very special moment.
Okay.
So now you're supposed to see what happens after rook e7.
Hmm. Oh, rook e7, and because there is this. Oh, got it. Hmm. Because there is a no, but there is no fork. There's a knight here.
Yes, there's a knight. So there's more to the position. After queen b5, you can go to the position with queen b5.
Yeah. So knight f4 takes queen b5, rook e7.
Yeah, now g7 is hanging. There's only one method to stop the mate.
Hmm. Rook f7, rook f7, knight e6.
That's all. That is the one. So the pause was necessary. That I just pause after rook f7 and see whether I have an in-between
Hmm.
intermezzo.
It was a tough calculation because
Yes.
and then there's no way the queen can defend the rook and you take it.
Yes.
Wow.
So this position I usually show also to show confidence. Like I was confident enough to go until this point and I thought, okay, I'm not able to see anywhere. But at pushing even more, I pushed myself when my opponent played h4. I did not respond to the threat with hg5, went with knight f4. But then that extra bit,
Hmm.
that extra touch I needed to play rook f7 and then knight e6.
You actually calculated like Prag in this game.
Oh, okay.
Pragnananda is usually going. I mean, I interviewed him recently after his Norway win, and I could sense that he was going like this deep.
Deep.
So it's amazing
Oh,
calculation here.
yeah, yeah. So our challenge is to be consistently like
Hmm.
him.
Correct.
He is like very consistent, right?
True. And so,
So,
yeah, go on.
so this was an example where I show to illustrate confidence, also to see hanging pieces and to see in between moves. And this book, this example is also coming in a book that I'm co-writing.
Oh,
There's a book coming later.
what's the name of the book?
It's not decided yet. I have co-authored it with the Grandmaster, so I
Oh,
can tell more once it is
is the
announced.
is the Acha Grandmaster also secret? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we both have to announce it together,
Okay,
so I
okay,
don't
okay.
want to spoil that now.
Sure.
So, but it is coming out this year, I hope.
Is it on? But it's not on this topic of how to beat a grandmaster.
It's not about beating a grandmaster. It's
Hmm.
something else.
Okay. And so this, guys, how to beat a grandmaster by Niranjan. I hope you enjoyed this last 1 hour of training. And if you want to get it, we'll put the link in the description so you can check it out. And don't forget the giveaway so you can comment what you learned today. Did you learn a lot from IDCC? Did you learn a lot from KMPSW?
Yeah, WS, yeah.
And these different things that Niranjan has taught. And Niranjan, on a parting note, you have sent me two quotes. Can we read them?
Yes, let us read. So I begin the quotes with this theme because in my own journey, I felt personally at this moment, these are my thoughts. It may change, of course, but my current understanding is that it took a lot of time for me to beat my first Grandmaster because I considered them as extraordinary, something beyond, and I felt that I have still not reached that place. And this sometimes in the background was not helping me to navigate that path. And why was it the case? Because I felt that in order to beat a grandmaster, I felt I had to play really good game. I had to play perfect chess. But my own journey, when I look at it right now so far, it shows that it's not about perfection. Chess will lose its essence if we only see perfection in the game. So I felt that I should take this lesson and put it at the very beginning so that it's very clear. So I wrote this quote that you must leave the obsession with perfect moves at the door, just like you leave your footwear outside a temple. You don't need perfect chess to beat a grandmaster.
Wow, so
And this is
beautiful.
especially for adult improvers. If you feel that you need to do it nicely, I don't think it's necessary. You have to enjoy the game, and also if you are learning something new, if you have this obsession to be perfect, it may disappoint you and you may not be interested in pursuing it further. So I think this is the very first
So there
lesson.
is there's perfection in imperfection.
Yes, in a
So
way,
be
yes.
okay with imperfection. Okay. Let's look at the second one.
And the second one, it goes as follows. One common mistake non-grandmasters make is to relax too soon, thinking that fewer pieces mean less danger. But in reality, you should never let your guard down. It's like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy advice, don't panic. In this case, don't relax just because it's the end game. So this is a very nice example that I've quoted. It's very nice to me because I learned a lot from those end games. And in my initial years when I started playing chess and then I started facing grandmasters, like I started in 2004 end and I started playing against GMs after 2009. I saw that they would play endgames, and I thought, okay, this endgame seems equal, but they would outplay me in equal endgames. And I saw that as a pattern. Sometimes they would transition into an endgame
Hmm.
where they would have a slight edge, but to my eyes, it looked like a normal endgame position. But then, over a period of time, I understood that there is this nuance, there is something called technique with the help of all my teachers, coaches. And I felt that this is an example, this is a good advantage that grandmasters have. And so I thought of including this as a part of the strengths. So
Nice.
this is coming from there,
So
that
nice.
even if you are playing an end game, don't be under the impression that okay, just only few pieces are left that you will make a draw and leave. That is not how it is.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And would you credit like all this knowledge to a few of your trainers? Is there anyone you would particularly like to mention who has helped you improve at chess?
I would definitely mention all my coaches, starting with Prakash Sir, Sagar Vernikar, Halsagar Chinchoremat, and Raja Ravi Sekar, Lanka Ravi, Vishweshwaran. So all these coaches
Wow.
definitely have helped, and even the interactions with Nisha Mota and Sandeepan Chanda, Surya Ganguly, Nilotpal Das. So all these people have also helped me in the journey.
Wow, that's amazing. And guys, Niranjan is one of the most wonderful people in the chess community
Thanks.
who's helping everyone and doing some amazing things. So thank you, Niranjan. And maybe you also coach, right? Like if someone reaches out to you and they are interested to learn from you, it's possible to
Yes,
train
yes, it
with
is.
you.
It's possible. Most of the time, when in recent period, especially after April, when I am approached, I usually ask them to first take a look at the course
Hmm.
because that gives you a gist about how I teach, what are the approaches that I have, and the way I teach is usually more like a mentorship kind of a thing where I tell them what they could do to upscale. And I'm not somebody who believes in a working model where the coach is there with the student throughout.
Hmm.
So I feel that this independent thinking and learning on your own with help from everybody can actually help you in doing your chess career. That's what
Beautiful.
I do.
Okay, that's very nice to know. Thank you so much once again for sharing this knowledge, Niranjan, and
Thank
hope to
you.
see you soon.
Thank you, Sagar, and thanks for taking the time to do this. I'm really glad, and I hope you also enjoyed it. And
Very much.
also, thanks to all the viewers who listened to this session. And I hope that you're able to use whatever you've learned in your own games. And I also learned a lot in creating this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.